What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and today I have something I'm really excited to share with you. This was kind of a brainchild of Indy. I was there and I tested this at some side events after playing in the main event. I've still been grinding Rescue Ace, but I want to break up that content because I know not everyone is a huge fan of it. This is Phantom Knight Adventure, and I'd like to offer an alternative that saves maybe a little bit of money, maybe closer to anywhere from $5 to $25 for this deck. To add in to kind of boost its power level from AGOV, as opposed to investing the $100 to $150 plus for the Horus engine. So this is going to be with the Armored XYZ package. I've been a quite big fan of that. I think it's really cool, really different, and if you still want a fun way to play this deck and maybe you want to save some money or wait, or you aren't able to get the Horus cards yet, I think this is still pretty powerful. I've actually come to prefer it because there are a lot of times where I just prefer having level 3s in rotation as opposed to extra Horus names to dig and then potentially hit those level 3s. I kind of just would rather have them outright. So I'll showcase the main deck, the extra deck, talk a little bit about how the combo works, and then we'll go from there. Okay, starting with the main deck, we have 3 for the Phantom Knight package, of course, 3 Silent Boots. This is the best one, free extender, and gets a Phantom Knight trap from your deck to your hand. 2 Torn Scales, you could play 3. I'll showcase the ratios, and then I'll explain why exactly 2 Torn Scales, just because I know that's a debate among the community. 2 Ancient Cloak, 1 Gloves, and 1 Greaves. So typically there's about 9 Phantom Knight names here, 3, 2, 2, and 2. You could do 3 Torn Scales. The reason I have 2 Torn Scales is I kind of prefer 2 Torn Scales specifically and 1 Greaves as opposed to 3 Torn Scales, because there are times where you open a lot of Phantom Knights in your hand just because of variance, and having the Stained Greaves to really get stuff out of your hand and unclog helps a little bit more. And you don't always want to see this with the Adventure engine because, again, you're pretty much choosing between one or the other. So I think this adds enough diversity. So that's really where I'm preferred at it. If you don't like it, I would just recommend cutting a Greaves for a 3rd Torn Scales. And then, like I said, obviously just the 2 Ancient Cloak and the 1 Gloves. Everything else, the boots, aside from boots, have to be normal summon pretty much, unless you're getting them in the grave or bringing them back with other reborn stuff. There's not really a way they can get themselves out. Torn Scales can do it a little bit from grave, but boots is obviously the best one because it searches either a trap or an extender, as well as just special summons itself. So that's the logic behind the names there. For the Phantom Knight traps, we are on 2 Fogblade, 1 Wings, and 1 Shade. So if you saw the guy's profile from Indy that talked a lot about this, he's using Mseti as the 3rd Dark to typically go into Rusty. We're not doing that, so Shade is typically my go-to as the 3rd Dark to make Rusty, and then the Fogblades, you're typically either searching 1 to 2 of them and or dumping 1 of them along with Wings to continue to reborn and continue to combo. That's pretty much it for the Phantom Knight stuff. There's just a really small package, but any way to 2 level 3s really gets you there, so it's not that big of a deal. In terms of the other level 3s, again, a lot of questions about, what are we replacing Horus with, or what are we just doing? We're still doing the standard stuff. You could do Graph Seer. I don't really like that. I think these are a lot more generic. The 3 E-Telly, and of course the 1 Wielder and the 1 Tracker. This is just another 5 free level 3 extenders, which I really do like. And then, of course, the Armored XYZ package, for those of you who don't know, requires 1 slot in the main deck, which is full Armored XYZ. You could play other things. And then in the extra deck, it requires, I think a minimum of maybe 3-ish slots. You can do a little bit more than that, depending on how you want to play it. But this basically just says, after this card resolves, you can make any legal XYZ summon. The reason that's important is a lot of people read this and they go, oh, it's just a rank up. And it's like, no, you can do more than that. You can summon Zeus on your opponent's turn should they battle your XYZ and it doesn't die, or you have multiple XYZ. It makes any legal XYZ that's possible. Most of the time, you're doing a rank up. You could even slap Typhon on this if you wanted to kind of slow down your opponent's big boards that they're building. There's a lot of different things you can do. But if there's an XYZ that's allowable to make, with the materials that exist on your field, you can use this and make it. The secondary effect is you banish it from grave and then equip an XYZ in your grave to another on the board. That's what really gets the combo going. It gives a few bonus effects here. As you can see, it gains the attack of what is equipped to it and then helps it from protection once. So I'll talk a little bit about this later in the combo. And then after that, I will showcase 3 for the Adventure engine. Again, this is Phantom Knight Adventure. This is probably going to be the more expensive part of the deck, but even not a lot because Adventure has been printed into Oblivion and still is relatively affordable when you compare it to Horus. And if you're playing Phantom Knight, ideally you already have this and have been just debating on more so Horus than anything else. 3 Enchantress. I really just wanted to max on this package. because you want to be able to get to your Omni Negate, you want to insulate your board, and you want to have free level 3 extenders, because worst case, you can use Enchantress plus a name to start getting combos started. And then, of course, the one Fateful, the one Draco back, and the one Griffin. Pretty straightforward there for the adventure package. And then the rest are non-engine, which is a blend of defensive cards and consistency pieces. This is one of the decks I actually don't run hand traps in. I haven't really missed it. This is one of the few decks, if you count adventure as non-engine, has so much space that you really don't need to worry about it too much and do quite a good job contesting boards. Starting off with 3 Fenrir, a lot more accessible now because of the Megatin reprint, but just pushes a lot and baits out a lot. Just sometimes games where your hands are awkward, having this plus adventure really does help close out games or get you to where you need to be until you start seeing Phantom Knight stuff. And then 3 Droplet, probably still one of the best decks that can make use of this card, aside from things like maybe Tri-Brigade or Graveyard-based decks that really trigger that way. Droplet is absolutely insane, does so much for the deck. I'm glad this card is back, or it's playable, and glad it's now affordable as supers for only maybe $5-10 a copy. I'm not sure what Rarity Collection is settling into around time of recording, but everything is going down quite nicely. In the same vein of that, you have 3 Triple Tactics Talent. Another really insane card. I tested Thrust in this and was originally playing Thrust at Indy. The problem is you just don't have any good cards going first to set because you're not playing Imperm or anything that really get you value. You could do, something like the full Armored Xyz trap, of course, as a way to set. You could set different random things like that. But there's nothing really good you can go into. Even with ruling wise, you can't get away with setting Shade and then still using it. Thrust restriction kind of overshadows and has more weight to it than the you can here. Can'ts overshadow that you can. That's what I kind of learned at Indy. So there's not really that many good targets for Thrust. So I wanted something that was just great all around, and Tactics really just was it for me. So that's pretty much it for there. And then the last 3 cards are just a couple basic one-ups. We have the Rhoda, the Foolish Burial, of course, and the one Called by the Grave. A clean 40 cards. I'll showcase the extra deck, and then I'll just talk about how the Armored Xyz combo works. Okay, starting with our extra deck, we'll start with the big links, move our way down to the Xyz, and go from there. We have 1 access code, 1 Rusty. These are the 4 and the 3. We don't play a lot of links after that. We do play the 1 Little Knight. You could cut this for a Nightmare or something. This card isn't needed, but I'm sure as you've heard everyone clamoring that if you have a Little Knight, you should play it. But again, not necessarily needed, but in this deck, it's still just really insane. In any deck, it's insane. But again, you don't have to play this and just focus on any other link to your choice. Could be IP plus Unicorn, different things like that. But Little Knight does really check a lot of boxes in this deck, because I do find myself going to, we have 1 Cherubini. We don't play IP currently because the way I climb and the way I build boards, I like making the break sword, popping the break sword, and then getting rid of those 2 that come back into an SP. You could do IP, but it's just harder because Rusty can't be used for link material. The Griffin goes away. SP requires effect monsters. The token's not that. So it's just kind of a weird spot where you don't have a solid material to make with IP. So you have to kind of change how you're comboing. That's why SP is just a little bit better in that case. And then, of course, the 1 Cherubini, right, to send any level 3, whether it's Enchantress, Phantom Knight, whatever you need, this card just checks all of the boxes. For the big Xyz, working our way down, 1 Zeus, 1 Typhon. You don't have to play Typhon, but I think if you're investing any kind of money into this deck to play it, and you're debating and you need a place to start, Typhon is it. It fixes a ton of the deck's problems because Rusty can't be used for link material. So a lot of the times after you've exhausted a lot of your resources, you can't get pops off this. This is just sitting here. Being able to have this as your biggest body to make Typhon with fixes so many problems. It gives Rusty a purpose. It makes it useful. It becomes an interruption. It is just really, really powerful. And if you have something bigger on it, it's just another thing to link to Xyz summon under one of Rusty's arrows to get another pop. So really powerful. Highly recommend it. And then for your Armored Xyz package, Full Armored Dark Ray Lancer, this is like 50 cents or $1 out of AGOV, which is crazy. 1 Full Armored Zero Crystal Lancer. This is more for going second if you need to climb. This is not a necessary tool to the package. You can get away with just this, the new 5 and the new 3, but it's a nice addition to have if it's available to you, and it's pretty cheap. I think it's like maybe a couple bucks. This is just kind of like a pseudo Dark Ruler if you think about X Pearly Happiness, where it kind of negates most of the monsters your opponent controls, or negates all of them, whatever. It functions in that way, but it's just another way to kind of get more material under this if you really want. And then we'll talk about the actual Armored Xyz package here. So I'll move things over. So we have the Big Boy, the Dark Ray Lancer, the Full Armored Fortress, and the Torpedo. So each of these do something different. This detaches 2 as material, is generic, takes any 2 level 3s, and draws a card, so it helps pay for itself, which is great. And then it has a couple effects when it's equipped to something that monster gains. Can't be targeted, and then if I remember correctly, in addition to that, it cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step if that equipped monster battles, and then negates the effects of all fate monsters they control. Kind of butchered that, but the targeting is really what matters. So by the time you get to this, it can't be targeted, protects it from being destroyed, and then is like almost like a pseudo dark ruler when it battles. And this card gains 300 for every material, plus 300, or sorry, the equivalent of Armored Xyz that's equipped to it from the trap. So you're looking at like a 5,000-6,000 beater that's just an insane towers. But how you do the typical combo is you need any 2 level 3s. You make this, detach 2, draw a card, and then you summon the Full Armor Xyz Fortress. And then this card detaches to search the trap, adds any Xyz armor or Xyz trap from spell trap from deck to hand. You need to detach exactly what you need, and what matters the most is this has 0 materials because it can't be used for Xyz material while it has materials on it. So you're detaching 2 to draw 2 and making sure that the only material under it is the little 3. So you add the trap, and then your opponent's turn, you just use the trap to overlay the Big Boy here, and then you're using the trap then, again, banishing from grave, to equip the little guy here. The reason that matters is the Full Armored Lancer, basically when a card is equipped to it, you can essentially, I'm trying to think, sorry, you can non-targeting attach an opponent's monster on their field to this guy. So it sucks it up, which is really cool. And the neat thing about the adventure cards is it synergizes well with this because it's anytime something is equipped to this. You don't get the bounce maybe from the adventure token, but to be able to equip to this trigger, maybe this gets negated, destroyed, Draco back triggers from grave, equips to your token, it's just insane. So there's a lot of utility in this package for not a lot of investment at all. And then the rest of the extra deck is pretty straightforward. The 1 Arc Rebellion and 1 Raiders Knight, typical OTK machine. And then the 2 Break Sword and 1 Levier. 2 Break Sword is pretty standard. You make 1 in your main combo, pop it with Rusty so it's ready to come back in grave for a pop. And then the second one later on to then make Raiders Knight to climb into Arc Rebellion to OTK. And then Levier is just kind of a flex spot. I think this is good. It comes up enough that I like keeping it in here, similar to the Stained Greaves, just to get some extra utility, bring things back. A lot of the Phantom Knights, like Torn Scales, when it summons itself back, or when you get any of them back off the traps, say banish them when they leave the field. Making it into some type of an Xyz monster helps avoid that, because then they're no longer on the field when they get detached, and it misses that kind of restriction that was put on them because they've changed what they are. So that's the main deck. The extra deck, clean 40 cards. This is Adventure Horrors, listen to me. Adventure Phantom Knight with the Armored Xyz stuff. So let me know what you guys think. I really do like this deck quite a lot. I think this is a really cool deck to kind of play around with locals, and with Grave decks being in the format right now, people are starting to focus on Zombie Vampire, Tier, all that kind of stuff. This is one of the few decks that can be a sleeper and abuses a lot of those people hoping to get good mills. You get Enchantress plus a couple Phantom Knights in grave, you're good to go. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.